What if I told you that I'm spending less than 15 minutes every single day managing the ads for my e-commerce business? In fact, yesterday we generated over $24,000 in sales. So in my opinion, the thing that prevents most e-commerce businesses from scaling is complexity. So the goal with this video is to show you the simplest and in fact the only Facebook ad strategy that has ever worked for me and will hopefully get you to multiple 5-figure days. So let's get right into it. If you guys don't know me already, my name is Blago and I've made more than 7 million in sales with one single dropshipping product. Recently we've had very good performance. Let me show you that I'm not bullshitting you. Yesterday we hit 24K, the day before it was around 18.5, 19K, and pretty much it's been very stable. And I've been managing my ads in a similar way for almost 3 years now. I've always wanted to have the least headache as possible. So that brings me to my first point, which is my favorite saying from Alex Hormozi. It's simple scales, fancy fails. I guess everyone has heard of that. So pretty much the moment you start scaling up a business, it brings complexity with itself. So just simply scaling a business is a complex thing on its own. So it's very stupid to make it unnecessarily complex, if that makes sense. And when it comes to running ads, 90% of your results will come from having a bulletproof, creative, and offer. That's the most important thing. Like as long as you do your homework, it doesn't matter how fancy your media buying strategy is, you will have great results. But if you don't have that, none of your efforts, none of your audiences, none of that will matter at all because your performance will be shit. When it comes to running ads on Facebook, ads and offer is the thing that I'm spending most of my time on. And like when I say that I'm spending 15 minutes per day managing my ad account, that doesn't mean that I'm not spending hours every single day in thinking about different creatives and different concepts that I want to test. So you have 3 to 4 hours every single day that you can be very creative and have a lot of brain power, unless you're Elon Musk, I guess, or an alien. But anyways, I prefer to spend most of my time actually thinking and brainstorming about different concepts, different hooks, different creative ideas that I want to test out, rather than spending all this time and wasting all this precious time and energy in my ad account. So the most important things are ads and offer, then the types of campaigns that you use when it comes to media buying on Facebook, and then audiences are the least important things, simply because since all the iOS changes, I'm pretty much leaving everything to the algorithm, and I'm really running mostly completely broad campaigns because those audiences are not accurate anymore. Anyways, so that brings me to my next point, which is you should split test one variable at a time only. Otherwise, you get very distracted. You cannot track your performance accurately, and you pretty much won't see which things are bringing the most leverage to your business. For example, if you're testing different hooks and different, different offer at the same time, and you have drastically different CTRs in your split test, you won't be sure if it's actually coming from the offer itself or it's from a different hook, and so on. So in order to keep things simple and clear, only test one variable at a time. And also, whenever you start scaling up and you try to squeeze out the most from your ad account and you start ranking some very good numbers, a lot of things will break. Happens to me every single day. Whenever this thing happens, you should not panic and like start doing all those random changes to your ad account and start pretty much mix and matching different things that work. You pretty much have to reset your campaigns to the default state that they were performing the best in, and then you start split testing again. So you don't just go to the next thing that you want to test after something breaks. You pretty much have no idea what happened. Like you should first stop, analyze what went wrong, descale a little bit, reset to default in a way, and then do the next thing that you want to test. So with that being said, let's go straight into my Facebook ad strategy. So the cornerstone of this entire thing is your split testing campaign structure. And just to keep things simple, I've marked everything that has to be split tested in red, and everything that's in green pretty much stays the same. So for example, here we have two two ad sets with audiences, and they're pretty much the same. When it comes to creative testing, I'm always doing KBOs. You can also do CBOs. Haven't had the best performance with it. So whenever I'm split testing things, I want to have the most control, and having control over the budget is quite important. So I do ABOs, and pretty much you can replicate this for every type of split test that you want to do. No matter if it's landing pages, creatives, offers, prices, whatever. You can use this structure to split test them all. So what I have here is several ad sets, and like this can be 4, 5, 6 different ad sets depending on how many concepts that you want to test out. But pretty much they're all staying the same, and they're a combination of all of your best performance. For example, if you have 4 or 5 interests in your other testing campaigns, and you basically want to combine them all in one ad set, and you pretty much use this combined audience for all of your ad sets in this testing campaign. So when it comes to your split testing campaign, the only variable that you have is the concept that you want to test. For example, if that's a Christmas creative that I want to test and I have videos and images, I'll put all of my images into this one ad set. If I have 5 images that I want to test out, I'll do 5 creatives under this one ad set. Again, same audiences. Then I have image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, and image 5 all within it. And then for the videos, because they're different type of ad that I want to use, I'll have all of my 5 videos that I want to split test under this one. It's not gonna be mixing and matching. That way Facebook will optimize the best according to the creative type that you're using. So a lot of times Facebook will spend all of its budget towards one creative, and that's completely normal. But what you want to do in this situation is isolate that creative. If it's performing well, leave it as it is, and you can create a separate ad set with all of the remaining creatives that you want to split test. If the creative, however, is not performing at all, you can kill it, and if you really believe that it can actually be a winner, you can split test that exact creative that was getting all of the budget into a separate ad set, only one creative, just to see if it was actually getting all of this budget for a reason. But usually Facebook is pretty good at picking creatives that can work. So if it's allocating most of the budget towards one single creative, it probably means that it will convert very well. And I actually have many of those ad sets where 90% of the budget is going towards only one creative, and that's completely fine because the results of that campaign are amazing. So I just simply leave it as it is. So once you determine what your best performing concept is, you want to combine it with other winning creatives that have worked in the past, or other winning concepts if it's an offer. So you have to pretty much pick what's working the best and combine it what has been working the best in the past, so that you can bring it into a scaling campaign and really ramp things up to the moon. So my favorite type of scaling campaigns are the following: advantage scaling plus campaigns, which are the simplest things to manage. You just pretty much have to edit the budgets and that's it. You have one ad set which is a completely broad audience, and then you have at least 10 of your winning creatives. I usually prefer to have like a wide variety of creatives, and here mixing and matching different concepts is not a big deal, to be honest. I like to start off with at least 10 creatives that I'm sure are gonna perform the best. And from there, it's just all about managing budgets and just cross-checking the creatives. If one creative is really getting a lot of budget, but it's not bringing in any results, I would kill it and replace it with a new one. But in most cases, it's just all about managing budgets. So I start off with 100 to 200 bucks, ideally on the higher side. And I just cross-check performance every single day. If it's working well, I ramp things up by 15-20% until I reach kind of like a tipping point where I try to scale up the campaign further, but it starts to bring in shit quality traffic. And in those situations, I just scale down a little bit and leave it as it is and leave it coasting, because that's pretty much the optimal budget for that campaign. And let me show you on the ad account. I have several of those. This one is a Christmas campaign that I recently launched. As you can see, I've scaled it up to $750 per day, and it's performing quite well. So you can scale those to 4 figures per day easily, as long as your performance doesn't break. But as I said, if it does so, just descale it back to the default state that it was performing the best in before you started scaling up, and I can guarantee you that it's gonna bring very good results. So the CBO scaling campaign is my other favorite type of campaign, and pretty much that's the only campaign that I have a lot of variety when it comes to audiences. So I like to experiment with different types of audiences. That doesn't mean that the audiences can be the same. If only broad is working for you, go for it. But here you can allow to have different interests, different audiences, or even lookalikes in your campaign. It will work completely fine, because over time it will shift the budget from one ad set to another one, and it's pretty much very sustainable. So here I have my best performing creatives in it, and I'm pretty much beginning with the same creatives when I'm starting the campaign. So I have 4 or 5 of my best performing creatives from before that I start off with, and then over time I pretty much stop the creatives that don't work and introduce new ones. So as long as you keep the creatives coming and are pretty fresh and you know are performing strong, your CBO will scale sustainably no matter what. The next one is simply scaling with ABOs, and let me tell you something, you can simply ramp up the budgets of the ABO. You don't even need to duplicate it. What I'm doing is pretty much, I don't even duplicate my testing ad sets. I just simply increase their budget. Let me show you in my ad account. This is my holiday testing campaign that I'm running. So I was so lazy that I didn't even bother to duplicate the ad sets. I went straight from testing to scaling within the same ad set, and I've scaled those up successfully to $600 per day. This one is running at 900. But pretty much you don't even need to duplicate your testing ad sets into a scaling ad set. You can just vertically ramp up the ad spend, and as long as your creative is strong, it will sustain the high budget. If that's not the case, just bring it back to the original budget and it will be just fine, I promise you. And the last type of scaling campaign that I like to use, and that's actually optional, like I know a lot of people who are scaling to crazy high numbers just with lowest cost campaigns, but this is cost cap and bid caps. It's pretty much the same structure when it comes to audiences and ads as the ABO scaling campaign. However, you start off at a much higher daily budget, because Facebook will only spend if it sees that it's gonna get very good results. So don't be afraid to put a very high budget on it, like it will not just waste your money. And then for the bid strategy, I usually start with my target CPA. So in my case, that's $60, and I gradually increase the bid until it starts spending. So if $60 don't work, I'll start off, I'll test out 62, 65, 70, and so on until it starts spending. But of course, you want to keep it under a certain threshold for profitability. So it doesn't really help having a bid cap campaign or cost cap campaign that is spending much above your target cost per acquisition, or even above your break-even cost per acquisition, because obviously it's not going to be profitable at all. So if it doesn't work, don't stress about it. Like I have a few bid caps that I recently tested out. They didn't work at all, but it's all fine, because all of the other scaling methods that I presented to you are more than enough to scale to multiple 5 figures per day every single day. And last but not least, I'll briefly touch on testing out interest. I'm currently not testing any interest at all. We're either running completely broad, or I have a few single interests that are very big and are pretty much bringing results all year long. However, if you see that interests are dying out, there are a few things that you might want to consider. So first of all, your audiences might be way too narrow. So you started off with very narrow audiences, like just a few million or below that. It's fine for testing things out, and it's probably gonna give you very good conversion rates in your testing campaigns initially. However, you cannot scale with that. And if you're still running 1% lookalike campaigns, you need to stop, because 1% lookalikes are probably 2 to 3 million. What you should do instead is test out a 10% lookalike, or at least 5% lookalike of your best performing lookalike types. For me specifically, 10% purchase lookalikes work the best. The more data you have, the wider you can get. But I feel Facebook is so good at picking the right people when you give him a large pool of data, that simply going for 10% is the simplest and like the most scalable thing. So definitely test it out. The second thing that you can test is just iterations of your best performing interests. So whenever you find a new interest that works the best, simply combine it with your best performing interest that you found so far, and you have a wider and wider and wider audience of people that you can target. And the last thing is just going completely broad. One further thing that you can do is test out different demographics. For example, you're selling a product for elderly people, you can test out 30 plus, 35 plus, 40 plus. But aside from that, just testing out completely broad and scaling it up is the easiest thing you can do with Facebook ads. And again, whenever you're testing different audiences, I just stick to the same winning creative stack that I already showed you. So that's pretty much it. I kept this short, and I hope that I didn't bother you with any excess complexity. So if you want to have that mural board, just let me know down in the comments. And if you guys are doing at least 10-20K a month, you want to scale up to multiple 6-figure months, definitely reach out to me and let's crush it together. Bye.